If you're visiting Australia or even thinking about moving here, there are unspoken rules that no one will hand you at the airport. These aren't laws or anything, but they are the secrets that the locals live by. And if you go against them, you will stick out like a sore thumb. And honestly, I see tourists break these things every single week. So here are 10 secret rules that tourists keep breaking in Australia and what you can do to avoid them. Hey mate, welcome back. I'm Sam, a British expat documenting my journey of leaving the UK and starting afresh and creating a better life here in Australia. So number one is don't walk on the right side of the pavement. No one's going to tell you off for walking on the right side of the path. It's just very annoying, especially if you're in a high traffic park. Everyone's walking around the loop of the park on the left. Yeah, great. And suddenly you see someone coming towards you on the exact same side of the path when they should be on the other side because you walk on the left. Now, when you're in the cities, this kind of gets thrown out the window more because, you know, everyone's in a rush, but especially in suburban culture in Australia, keep to the left. Trust me, you don't want to be winding anyone up. Number two is don't touch the animals. I'm sure you've heard about what's happened with a particular person from a different country who came to Australia and picked up a wombat. Australia takes their wildlife very, very seriously here, as they should, because it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and they don't want anything to taint it. Look, if you've paid for the VIP experience at Australia Zoo with an expert zoologist next to you handing you the koala, then it's fine. But if you're out in the wild, don't do it. Not only is it particularly distressing for the animal to be picked up by some random human, you could be picking up something that could kill you, that's highly venomous, that has very sharp teeth. And with their fight or flight, instead of them going for flight, they actually go for fight. So be very careful, don't touch the animals, don't get kicked out. Also, if you're enjoying this, would you mind just hitting that like button for me? It really helps to support the video. Thank you. Number three is don't be offended if Aussies swear in conversation. Now, we Brits, we swear quite a bit as well, but Aussies, they love a good swear word, especially. Can't say it on this content because I try and make this content family friendly, so I'm not going to go into the words, right? But they like a particular word that if I said in front of my mother, I would be in a lot of trouble. That's all I'll say. Now, this one might sound silly to some people, but to other people, it's important to remember this because some people come from, you know, I don't want to say sheltered lives, but family upbringings where swearing just wasn't ever heard of. So if you're in a conversation with an Aussie and they swear, don't take it as, you know, offensive. Don't take it as them trying to intimidate you. Often it's their way of showing affection and they mean it in an endearing way. Just like British humour, Aussie humour is blunt. It's a bit dry. It's part of the rhythm here, but just don't make fun of it at the same time because Aussies, they don't like you to take the mick out of them. They don't want to be mimicked. It's not funny. They've heard tourists do a terrible Aussie accent and say shrimp on the barbie millions of times, even though they're not called shrimps here, they're called prawns. So that's another thing to avoid as well. Number four is don't over-apologise or over-explain yourself. Aussies are really laid back, and I don't mean that in the way that they're like lazy. No, they're super productive, incredible people, but they're very chilled out and they respect calm confidence. As a Brit, we are very used to, I'm doing it right now, get very sort of clenched up in the muscles, get very tight in the jaw, be like, oh, sorry. So the reason why I did this and this is why I did this, and over-explaining yourself, justifying everything, especially because in the UK, there's a lot of crabs in a bucket mentality of you do something different, someone tries to pull you down. So you feel the need to justify yourself all the time, which is actually really sad. And you feel the need to over-apologise because we believe in over-politeness in the UK, but it's a little bit more laid back here. If your intentions are malicious, then an Aussie is going to know that regardless of what you say. So they will take you as you come and they don't expect you to be anything other than yourself, which is really lovely. Just a quick one, I was looking at my analytics yesterday and I noticed that over 98% of you who regularly watch my videos aren't yet subscribed. So if you're finding this video valuable and you did want to support the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button to help me keep making videos about Australia. Cheers. Number five is don't assume yeah, nah means yes. When an Aussie says yeah, nah, it means no, okay, full stop. But if we go into this deeper, we realise that Aussie slang is very subtle, it's very layered, it's very nuanced, and I think so many tourists really underestimate Aussies. You know, like Hollywood has depicted Australians as very two-dimensional, as the comic relief, as the happy-go-lucky person. No, but they are so much more nuanced. I would know because I'm married to one. As soon as you can get used to this dry humor, this irony, and you can learn to laugh at these things, you're going to have a much better time here than getting yourself into a tizzy all the time because you don't understand something. And I know that sounds really unhelpful because it's like, oh, it's easy for you to say you've been living here for a while. What about me? I don't know the sayings and things, but you'll pick them up, and just be patient with yourself. You will learn these things, and most Aussies are very, very welcoming to tourists, and they will want you to pick up these sayings as well because they'll think it's really fun. Number 6 is don't clap when the plane lands. I regret to tell you that so many Brits do this when we're on our 2-week summer holiday to Spain, to Mallorca, to Greece. The Ryanair plane lands on the strip and everyone's like, woo, let's get the holiday started. Doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, I'm like, oh. Australians don't do this. It's especially not going to go down well if you're on a long haul flight, which I'm assuming you will be if you're flying to Australia. Everyone's just going to think, what? Obviously be yourself, have fun, have a laugh, but respect other people's personal space, and that includes noise. Just know what room you're in. If you're on a long haul flight, if you're in the doctor's office, if you're in the supermarket in Australia, don't be loud and brash and obnoxious. You will stick out like a sore thumb. And Aussies might even say something to you if you're being too much as well. Some exciting news, guys. If these videos have helped you in any way, I've just released a Patreon. It's the best way to support this channel, connect with me personally, and I give you lots of exclusive content, behind the scenes footage, extended cuts of videos, and I'm also doing live streams and Q&As. So if that sounds good to you, the link's below in the description. I'd love to have you there. Number 7 is don't skip sunscreen, even on a cloudy day. I've mentioned this in other videos. The UV here will destroy you. It does not care. Australians have one of the highest cases of melanoma, of skin cancer, on the entire planet. You need to be wearing SPF 50 sunscreen. Anything less is not good enough. And I've got lots of Aussie relatives who have had skin cancer cut out of them. It is a horrible experience for them. It is not fun at all. It's very painful and costly. And you see it every year when the tourists flock here for the summer. They'll be on Bondi Beach and you'll see some British guy who is red as a tomato because he hasn't put on a single drop of sunscreen. He's been out on Bondi Beach all day and his skin is peeling. This is so bad for you. Now, I didn't fully understand what the UV scale meant until I started doing research on this. So anything below 3, still, I'd recommend wearing sunscreen, but is safe to go outside in and enjoy your time. Anything over UV3 is technically dangerous levels of UV. Now, obviously, we can't just put our life on pause. We are going to go out, but especially if it's over 3, wear factor 50 SPF sunscreen. A lot of people are like, oh, the chemicals are really bad for you, aren't they? Well, it's most likely that the skin cancer will do far more damage to you than any chemicals you'll find in sunscreen. And if you're that worried about the chemicals in the sunscreen, you can splash out a little bit more and buy some zinc-based sunscreen, which is a lot more natural and healthy for your skin. That's exactly what I use on my face whenever I leave the house in Brisbane, and it works like a charm. I know I sound like a really boring, overprotective parent for you right now, but trust me, wear your sunscreen. Number 8 is don't underestimate how far nearby really is. So Aussies are used to distance. If you've ever looked at Australia on a world atlas, you will see how huge the continent is. It's massive. When I'm flying the layover from Singapore to Brisbane, most of that flight is just flying over Australia. Just to put it into perspective how incredibly massive Australia is. So a 1-hour drive to a British person is quite a far way because, you're only driving 1 hour unless you want to get to a completely different part of the UK. But to an Aussie, that's like down the road. An hour is like very typical to go visit somewhere you like. And I say this because tourists will try to squeeze as much as they can into the day, and you might get advice from someone on your hotel reception that, this place that's really fun to go to, this tourist destination, it's quite close, and then you're in the car and it's an hour and you're like, oh no, we don't have time for this now and we don't have time for our restaurant booking. So make sure you do your own research on where the locations of your activities are, and make sure you use things like Google Maps and Waze to properly map these out, and so you know the distances, because Aussies have a completely different concept of distance here. Also, they use kilometers instead of miles, which is crazy. Number 9 is don't brag about your home country. Mate, you've flown all this way. You've been on this massive long haul flight. You've booked all of your accommodation. You've got your visa sorted. You've spent all of this money to be in this beautiful country called Australia just to brag about your own home country. Aussies won't find this endearing, they'll just find it really annoying. In the same way, you shouldn't tell Aussies that New Zealand is better than Australia, even if you think it is. They don't want to hear that. You're in their house right now. Don't come into someone else's house and go, oh yeah, but Dave's down the road is way better. So it's just not going to go down well if you do that. And look, you're flying all this way to meet incredible people called Australians. Why not make friends with them? Number 10 is don't swim outside of the flags. This one can kill you. The lifeguards on larger beaches like Bondi Beach, they are professionals and they have put those flags there specifically to keep you safe if you go in the water. There is a much higher likelihood in Australia of sharks, of riptide currents, which can sweep you away until you're swimming and you burn yourself out into exhaustion. And the riptides, they are invisible unless you know what to look for and you have a lot of experience in Australia. But if you're only going for a few weeks, you probably won't pick that up soon enough. So only swim in between the flags. If the lifeguards call you back onto the beach, listen to them, take action immediately. This is no joke. The sea here is completely different from the sort of sea that you'd be going into in, Cornwall or in Spain. It's completely different. And again, this comes down to Aussies' inherent respect for nature. If you don't respect it, it could kill you. So if you want to avoid awkward moments like these, or even worse, offending somebody here in Australia, then there's one more video that you need to watch. It's 11 things you should never do in Australia. Go watch that right now and hopefully it will save you a lot of hassle like it did me. Thank you so much for making it this far to the end. And if you have, consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps to support the channel out. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.